is Home Games. I'm Scott Radley from the Hamilton Spectator 900 CHML. Rick Zamperin from 900 CHML. Steve Milton from the Hamilton Spectator. Bubba O'Neill is recovering, as you know, from COVID. He's doing better, we're told, and we expect that he'll be back here sooner rather than later. We're eager to have him back. The 3 doesn't look as good as the 4 on the screen. Other reasons, too. Here is the story for today, Rick. We heard last week, now it has not been confirmed yet, but we heard that Mike Tyson apparently has said he will be going back in the ring again, and this time fighting Lennox Lewis, doing the Old Timers tour again. Last time it was Roy Jones Jr., now Lennox Lewis. Now, about a year ago, if you go back into our videos, go to Home Games Hamilton on YouTube, you can scroll back, you will find a video from a year ago where we talked about this and said, do you want to see Mike Tyson fight again? A year later, Rick, having seen him fight Roy Jones, has anything changed? Are you more excited, less excited, or no different excited about the possibility of an Old Timers boxing tour?
Well, before I comment, I think what had happened was, and I think this came out of TMZ, was that, Mike Tyson was in a car and he shouted out the window to the one reporter and said, hey, I'm fighting Lennox Lewis, this fall. And so I don't know if he was on some kind of weed trip or cocaine trip or whatever the case is. He was having fun in that car, I'm sure. But I think if you roll back the tape in a year ago, I was excited for a Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield round. I guess it would have been 3 or 4 or whatever the case is. I thought the Roy Jones Jr. Tyson fight was more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. So I'd be wholeheartedly in support of seeing Iron Mike in the ring with Lennox Lewis or any of the old, boxers, because not only does it harken back to, some of the memories of their great fights, I'm of the understanding of they're not the same. Obviously, they can't be. Me at 25, very, very different than me at 45. I understand my physical limitations, and there's some mental limitations there too. But I would be wholeheartedly in support of watching Tyson in the ring, because there's always that intrigue factor of what's going to happen, what is he going to do, how is he going to respond, who's going to win. Ultimately it's a competition, and they're still, they could still at 40, whatever, I think they're over 50 now. Yeah, I think they could still beat most guys in the ring. Most of the Joe Schmoes out there who would enter the ring would get their, head blown up by Iron Mike or any of the other upper echelon old timers.
Rick, isn't that what we want, though? See, this is the thing. I found the Tyson Roy Jones thing okay. That was fine. It was interesting to see the 2 of them back. And what we learned from that fight was that Roy Jones Jr. is absolutely done. He never needs to set foot in a bar. He was one of the greatest ever, but he doesn't need to go in there again. Tyson, though, looked pretty good. He looked pretty fast still, and he looked pretty dangerous. The problem is it's an exhibition match, and Tyson doesn't want to kill Roy Jones Jr. Right. The intrigue of Mike Tyson is that he's turned himself into a soft, cuddly movie star character now. The intrigue of Mike Tyson is letting him get into the ring and be the animal that we think that he still could be if you wanted him to.
And it can't happen.
And it can't happen in these. I am interested in Mike Tyson. I want to see Mike Tyson box again. I want to see Mike Tyson go into the ring with some 20th ranked heavyweight in the world who's a legitimate current fighter. He's not going to beat one of the top 3 or 4 contenders, but give him a top 20 guy and see what happens. That, Steve, that I would be very intrigued and see.
I think I would be intrigued by that, but I don't know if I'd want to watch it. You're right, because the number one thing about Tyson, like many of the greatest heavyweights, is their punching power, right? I mean,
and his fury.
And the fury that produces that punching power, and the fact, he would actually go in against a younger person with what they call a puncher's chance, right?
Sure.
Because you could get outboxed completely and outdanced, but if you can get that one punch in. So you're never going to throw that in an Old Timers tour. I don't know that this isn't like golf, even golf, I really did lose interest in the Old Timers tour after its sort of novelty for a while. It was nice to see the names and those kinds of things. But do you ever tune in to watch it? The rare times it's on TV anymore.
Steve, what's the Old Timers event that works other than as a lark? What's the Old Timers sport that works? They don't.
For the most part, they don't. It's more of a participatory thing, and it's a memory type thing.
Right. That's
and
exactly
I think one of the problems with memory type things is where Tyson can be a little bit different. You can go say, wow, he's aging for an old guy, but it's sort of like when I got my band back together, like, I didn't have the moves behind that microphone, and I didn't have the pipes, I don't know if I ever had them, but it was almost, it was fun, a participatory thing, but for people watching it might have been this is a reminder that we're all getting old, and maybe that's a good thing. And not all of us are getting old. That's the other part of this. There's a nostalgia is a double-edged sword. I think, Rick, you mentioned something about double-edged sword here, and it really is that kind of thing, because it can also do something negative to you as well, to the viewer.
Rick, the closest comparison to this, I think, would be George Foreman when he came back. Yeah. And remember, George Foreman, before my time, Steve might remember this, and that's not a shot, but I mean, George Foreman in his boxing prime was the baddest, scariest, meanest, ugliest, and I don't mean face-wise, I mean just like, he was Ali was the dancing, joking punster, and Foreman was the mean guy. That was Tyson. And then George Foreman became Foreman Grill, and he became loving and cuddly and all the rest. That's Tyson now. But when George Foreman got back in the ring with Michael Moore for that heavyweight championship fight, he was able to recapture in some form the George Foreman that was the great fighter. Tyson can't do that in exhibition matches. Can you imagine if Tyson gets in with a guy like a Roy Jones and knocked him out and injured him? Now all the good rehabilitation, Rick, of his reputation and character is gone. And so he's not going to do that. You need to have a real fight to be able to do that.
The intrigue of the real fight, Tyson versus a top 20 guy, you only need one punch, and Tyson has that one punch still at his advanced age. But the longer the fight goes, the other guy probably has a better chance, and that is the strategy behind that kind of matchup. It would be very interesting to see any old timer against a top 20, whether it's in MMA or it's in boxing, or throw in a 40-plus batter against a 20-year-old kind of fireballer, to see that kind of dichotomy and how can the old guy kind of outsmart the young kid. In boxing, it's obviously a little more violent, and there's a lot more at stake because you can get seriously injured. But I'd love to see Tyson against a young guy as well, just to see does he still have it against some not necessarily superior competition, but competition that is a lot more agile and fresh and younger and has a little more stamina as well.
The part I don't like about this entire discussion, not the one that we're having, but the larger one that exists because they're saying they're going to do this, is the lowering of the standards of entertainment. We're really lowering the bar. At the same time, elsewhere, it's also getting much higher with all the great streaming stuff we're seeing and all that kind of thing. A certain end of it, and that's more mass entertainment, the bar has been lowered. And sports has always been and what I'm talking about specifically is with reality TV, which is about as real as nothing, right? It doesn't have the great plots of real drama, and it hasn't got the real reality. Sports has always been reality TV. Right? Because it's live. You don't really know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. This is a slip back into the opposite, the non-reality TV.
Right.
I know. Like, I don't know what to do with that. But
the thing too is it kind of feeds into our nostalgic thinking. How many reboots and kind of rebirths of TV shows have we seen from? You name the shows that have come back because, we loved them from yesterday. Or there's always that talk of Seinfeld kind of coming back.
But always failed.
Exactly, yeah. And this is kind of in that ilk. It's never going to be as good as it once was. It never can be. We're never going to get that same high. It's still exciting and entertaining, but it's never going to be the same.
Okay, So quick question before we go. Let us say, Rick and Steve, you are both 20th ranked heavyweight contenders right now in the world. A promoter comes to you, Don King, he's still alive, right? Whoever. Somebody comes to you and says, we want you to get in the ring with Mike Tyson. Now, there's two lines of thinking on this. One is you will never have probably a fight unless you get all the way up to the top with as much attention on you. This will be your greatest moment in the spotlight ever. Thumbs up for that. You probably will never have a bigger payday unless you get right to the top. Big thumbs up for that. Downside, you lose to a 54-year-old guy, your career is over. Do you sign up for that fight, Rick?
Depends why you're 20th ranked in the world. Are you 20th ranked in the world because you're new and you're young? Or are you 20th ranked in the world because you're always going to be no higher than that, and the heavyweight ranks only really go down about 10, 12, 13, 14 deep? If you're that one, then you might take that fight because you're going to get money and you're going to get some notoriety. You might even get a biography out of it. You can get a book, all of those kinds of things. But if you're somebody with any chance of thinking of being on the rise, it's only lose-lose.
Rick?
Removing that from the equation, it's a no-win for the young guy because
No, I mean.
you lose to an old guy or
Mhm.
you beat an old guy. So for that 20 ranked guy, depending on obviously where he is in his career, it's really a no-win.
Yeah.
But for 10, 12, 15, 20 million dollars?
Hey, I'd do it for sure.
Oh, yeah, again. Yeah.
There you go. That's that. Then all of a sudden it becomes a little more interesting. And the next question, we're not going to do that today, but the next question, there's always been this talk about an intergender fight in either MMA or boxing. That's would you fight if you were a guy? Would you fight a woman in the cage in an MMA fight? We're not going to talk about that today, but same idea. How much money would that take? And is there any good way to come out of a fight like that? If you beat up the woman, I'm sorry if it sounds sexist. I mean, it's a reality. If you beat up the woman, you look like the bad guy. If you lose to the woman, you look like the bad fighter. Sorry, true.
Let's postpone that discussion for a
We
long
will postpone that one, but
Table that one.
But what do you think about the idea of Tyson coming back? Are you interested in a Tyson Lennox Lewis fight? If in fact he was serious, are you interested in Mike Tyson fighting an active fighter? Are you interested in Mike Tyson never fighting again and just doing more hangover movies? Whatever. Let us know. Subscribe down below, comment down below, hit the notification bell. We'll talk to you soon.